Welcome to Meeple, uniting players around the world. A 30-minute exploration of PJ and Gareth's board game experiences from across both sides of the Atlantic. Each episode they share their thoughts and opinions on the world of board games, including their favourite themes, games, hot topics, and much, much more.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 89.
89.
89. Once again, as always, I remain PJ.
And I am Gareth.
And I am sorry, Gareth is being silly, and he's made me laugh right at the intro.
There's always a 5-second countdown before we start recording, and I just pull silly faces. And this week,
he does.
He got a raspberry. How unprofessional of us. Anyway.
It's great. I love it. So episode 89, crowdfunding games. Should you or shouldn't you back the game?
That is a question.
Yeah. So this is kind of a continuation of last week. We talked about playtesting games in development. Then these games are developed and they're ready to be launched on. And to be fair, it's crowdfunding. So Kickstarter,
GameFound,
Backer Kit.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the big three. I don't know. I'm not familiar with others, but I'm sure they exist.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, Tom. I mean, I have been backing crowdfunding for must be over 10 years now, and I've seen it grow from the early days.
Okay.
To today, where it's a billion, must be billions. What's the size of business? So I should have done some research, but it's a lot of money going through these. It
is
these crowdfunding platforms.
It is. The first game that we ever backed on any crowdfunding source. Yeah, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm gonna take my time telling this story so that you can look it up on your phone.
I've got 400 plus projects backed on Kickstarter, so I need to scroll for a while. So you take your time.
I will. Our first game that we backed on Kickstarter was in 2019, and that was Minerva by Pandasaurus Games.
I have that game.
Yeah, it's good.
It's a good game. It's a tile placement game, isn't it?
It is a tile placement game. It is so good. Oh my gosh. We're always happy every time it hits the table. It was overshadowed because Pandasaurus, like 6 months later, they released their Totally Liquid Dinosaur Island expansion.
Yeah.
And everybody forgot about Minerva. Now,
they're missing out.
Here's the question, Gareth. Is that the first Kickstarter that we received?
No.
How intuitive. How did you figure that out? Island of El Dorado was our first.
That's a tile placement game as well.
Yep. You're exploring the island of El Dorado by laying out these hexes. And the hexes, you build farms and farmers so that you can produce resources a la Settlers of Catan. But you're mostly exploring. You're trying to find the 3 shrines, go into the cave.
It's a really fun game. We've got that as well. We've backed similar things.
So what's interesting about that game, I don't know what it is, but in our bigger local Springfield group, the women always seem to win.
What, that game?
Yeah. And not just Katie. It doesn't matter, right? It's like another friend's girlfriend she'll win. Anytime there's a woman at the table, she's going to win Island of El Dorado. It doesn't matter. It's just funny. I realize that's not causality, but it's a fun thing to think about, right? It's like, okay.
It's fate.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm still loading, so keep talking.
Okay. So let me talk about why we're talking about this topic, right? So I was a little inspired. Earlier this week, one of our friends, Joe at Joe Plays Games on Instagram, so check him out. He posted a survey. He asked his followers, what stops you from backing a crowdfunded game? And his results were really fascinating. I was like, that's really cool. But I didn't want to restrict our conversation to why don't you back or what prevents you from backing. I also wanted to talk about, well, why do you back, right? Because when you look at a game, you choose to back a game over another one. Why do you do that? So you're leaning back in your chair. You're not scrolling anymore. What was the first game you ever backed?
So 2011
Do
was
you
the
feel old?
first Kickstarter I backed. Actually, this is the second Kickstarter. The first one looked like it was some kind of technology thing, early days of the iPad. But the first game, and it's a game I still. In fact, the first 3 games I backed on Kickstarter are still in my collection, which really surprised me. But this game, nobody will have heard of. 99.999% sure. It's a game called Dice Age. These Ain't Your Grandpappy's Dice.
Oh.
Which I will now go and take a photograph because it's a bag of dice of all. They're not dice; they're random shapes that form dice that you can roll with 2 or 3 or 6 sided. But really cool shapes. Like I'm showing a picture of a rocket now.
Okay.
They're all handmade, like in casts, and I think there might have been 2 or 3 different Kickstarters over time. So extra dice were made. So that was 2011, and then not far after that, oh no, it's reset itself. Was a game called Dead Fellas, which is a card game. I think it's Dead Fellas. I can't see now because it's reset itself, but it's like it was zombies, and we still play that from time to time. But that was early in the board game. I think we hadn't really got into. We're still just getting into games. And being a techno, geek I am, I discovered Kickstarter. And these things are like 20, 30 quid, So not the 300, 400 pound pledges that you get these days. So we dabbled. There were definitely some burns along the way, but I think we've done about 400 projects. Not all those are board games. Some of those are other things. And I think I can only think of 2 that I haven't received.
Really?
Now, that's part of the conversation is research, because I got stung quite early on for a game that no one got because they basically took the money.
Yep.
And so I guess because we were early adopters in the realm of crowdfunding, there were a lot of horror stories, and people were just doing games and taking people's cash quite a few times early on.
Oh, yes, there was.
So, yeah, I guess I end up having a bit of a nose kind of sense of, you kind of read the page, you get a sense of what the designers like, how engaging are they, how much they communicate in the comments box, how active are they with updates. And that doesn't mean that once it's finished that you're still going to get the game. Right. You kind of get a vibe, particularly if you drop the messages and how responsive they are to chat.
You've got this. You kind of got this down to a science now. There's like, when you're looking at a project, there's like 3 or 4 factors you look at right away to determine whether or not you're going to do further research.
Yeah, I mean, I look like if it's got over 1,000 backers. That ends up being a trigger that something's worth. I think maybe I can't remember how I got his number, but maybe I did some research on the games that were a little bit less than average, and the ones that had less than 1,000 maybe had some sort of stats that said, "Gareth, he's a warning light." Doesn't mean it's not a good game, though. But again, the things that I just check, it's just reloaded some other games in there. Omen, A Reign of War. I still have that game, and I think there might have been 4th and 5th editions. Agents of Smersh, that's a good game. There it is, Shadow Days, fantasy deck building, combat survival. That's the one I never saw.
Oh,
so that's only about eight games in.
Wow.
Escape. Do you remember Escape?
I do remember.
The Temple Curse ridiculously fun dice rolling game.
Yep.
So
I had posted some pictures on Instagram asking our followers and listeners, why do you choose to back one game over another, right? I got a few responses, not a lot of them, but and I was going to do them in order, but instead I'm going to do them topically. So there's one that's direct to what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Our friend Michiana Board Gamery. So at Michiana Board Gamery, that's Shelly. She's a longtime listener of the show. She said that mechanisms and pedigree are the two most important things to her when she sees a new project. She always does her research, and her research she does is no different than something that's already out.
Agreed.
At a retail store.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you've got to. Sounds like she was burned like the rest of us. I think we've got a couple of stories.
I think that's a real important point is the research. Like if I go onto Board Game Geek and type a name of a Kickstarter into their game search and I can't find it, there's a warning sign straight away.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like if they haven't put it onto the database, either that it's just a set of non-gamers and haven't quite understood the market, but that's my go-to research. Mm-hmm. And then I want to find some reviews or some photos, or like if the forums nothing in the forum, that's another.
Right.
There's no activity. The designer's not even putting posts on to the forum to drive conversation. Right. So that's I think Shelley's point about research is absolutely spot on. It's critical. Because you can get led away, right? Or with the shiny stuff and all that. We'll talk about pledge levels in a minute, but just there's always that. I think there's certainly a point in my Kickstarter experience where there was a phase of FOMO when they just went from being a game in a box, and the concept of deluxe or the concept of extras didn't really exist, to the point then you had to get all the bits because then you didn't have them, and then they'd be really hard to get. And that is something I do take into account. And I think, is it Arcs at the moment from Leader Games that is all over my feed?
It's all over the place.
And I have FOMO because I was like, I missed that. I was really good. And then I said to myself, I wonder how much that will cost me to go and buy. So I looked at the retail price plus all the bits, that Kickstarter bits, and I was like, I'm not going to buy that. It's too expensive.
I agree.
Too expensive. I totally agree. But the Kickstarter price was quite enticing.
So let's tackle maybe this is a little bit more nuanced question. Comment, right?
Yeah.
So John, our good friend John, Try-Win Games, go and follow him right away, who's also going to be releasing his game on crowdfunding soon.
He certainly is.
He responded, and this is what he said, and I'm trying to unpack his answer, so maybe you can help me. What he's looking for, the reason he chooses to back a game, is that it has a sense that the whole campaign makes sense and is bound together. It's built on preparation rather than winging it.
No, 100%. That's back to our point.
Yep.
Is it on Board Game Geek? Has it got? Is there an Instagram account that's active? Is there social medias? Is the designer, and John's a great example of somebody who does it really well.
Yep.
He's all over this stuff. He had a big reveal. Was it last week or the week before? I've lost track of time.
I think it was last week.
I think it was last week. I turned up and missed the big reveal. But I did see the big reveal once I watched it back of the artwork. But John's been demoing that at conventions and has revealed the artwork, revealed the box, revealed bits about the game, and we're getting closer and closer to launch. So it is that it's an event. It's not just turn up. Here's a campaign. Cross your fingers.
And this ties back to last week's episode, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got to play test your game to work out all the bugs, and you generate buzz in the process, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many games did I talk about that I play tested at Gen Con's first exposure? And I talked about them after I play tested them.
Yeah.
I'm still talking about that experience. So,
well, look at Kavango, not this UKGE, but last UKGE. I'd missed their stand. Gareth, the other Gareth, went and grabbed a box and said, I'm going to take this and play with my friends, which amazingly Matt and Zara said yes to. I'm not sure many designers or publishers would let a copy go off their stand. Gareth brought it over and like, wow, look at it now. I mean, it's on its way. It's being fulfilled. And that's all about getting that buzz. And we had them on the show, blah, 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 blah. The rest is history.
That was a crazy experience. I'm just going to take one moment to talk about Matt and Zara, and then we can move on. Because you played the game at UKG. I had no idea. Didn't know what the game was.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to sit here and ask these strange people questions. Turned out to be one of my favorite episodes.
It's one of our favorite episodes.
Beautiful people. And we just got the email that our hours is making its way over. And Matt and Zara threw a few extra things in there for us. And
awesome.
Thank you so much for that. So it's all about relationships. It's all about not winging it, like you said.
Not winging it. Yeah, it's a really good example.
So I like that. So here's another issue. Our friend at Spooky Meeple, right? Mm-hmm. Cassie, she brought up the number one reason for her to back a game is shipping cost.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's another, I mean,
shipping costs and Brexit and all of the tax and only this weekend gone. So I backed Kelp. Remember Kelp?
Yes, I do.
And then you paid for your pledge and they warned you that there'd be another step where you got to pay your shipping, and I turned it on ready to wince at the number when it was tax. Actually, I was pleasantly surprised. It was like $12 or something.
You just backed it?
No, backed it ages ago, but they're now collecting funds for shipping.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the ones now when you've backed it, let's say for $100 or €100 or £100, and then 6-12 months later, they then come along for the tax, the shipping, add-ons, and it's another $100.
It is
potentially. So again, people who may not have the experience, that's ones to watch out for. Is read the small print, read the stuff at the bottom. It's always at the bottom of the page.
It is
on shipping, logistics, which countries they're going to ship to, which they aren't going to ship to. Certainly in the early Kickstarter days, there was a lot of people definitely not paying for VAT. There was some sort of vagueness about it, but certainly after Brexit, it tightened up, and now you've always got to pay VAT. Well, not
absolutely.
They have, not us. So yeah, I agree. Logistics and shipping.
So back to Joe Plays Games. One of the reasons his followers said they don't back was high prices and shipping costs. So here's what it says: high prices for the games, okay, compounded by steep shipping costs and significant deterrents. Backers find it hard to justify these costs, especially when they know the game will be cheaper once it achieves retail. You alluded to the fact, and we'll talk about it, is the pledge manager and the different levels and all the add-ons and the.
That's one reason I hardly back anymore. I mean, I turn on. I mean, I think if you did a little graph of my Instagram purchases, it's probably nosedived over the last 3-4 years.
Yep.
But probably mid-17s, before COVID, 17, 18s, 19s, I was probably at the extreme of backing. And then these days, it is just eye-watering. I mean, we were talking about Luthia, the game from Paverson Games.
Yes,
where the core game is actually the base game is actually 3 pledges down. They start with the deluxe for $99. They then have the deluxe for $169. Then they have the super deluxe for $279. Base game $69.
Yeah.
And then I scrolled a bit more and I found the £499 version, limited to 15, of like the early prototype first production run, I think, kind of thing.
Right.
Eye-watering.
And that doesn't include shipping.
It's a good game. It doesn't include shipping or VAT. And I mean, I was blown away by the game at the UK Games Expo. And I want it back, but I look at it and go, I think it's a £99 version.
Mm-hmm.
all the other bits look nice, but it's so that 99 used to be the deluxe. That was it, and you used to kind of go okay, and there would have been a lower tier. But I mean, there's a lot of things. There's chips. There's a baton. There's realistic resources.
Well, that's what's interesting is games are starting to do that now. It's like you can't be successful unless you offer a big fancy first player marker that ultimately doesn't do anything mechanically in the game, but you get to hold it, right? Or you need the resin poker chips instead of the cardboard chips. We're talking about a tactile. It's not a super enhancement of the experience, but yeah, it's
tough because I do like the shiny stuff.
I do too.
But these days, the shiny stuff and the cardboard. We had Brian and Ali all over yesterday. Always plays blue.
Yep.
Nearly always play blue because I play blue and so did Brian. And we played Mosaic, and so they have the retail version, and I have the Colossus version.
And I have the Sphinx version, which is in between the two.
In between, I didn't even know there was a Sphinx version.
Yeah.
We went to town today, and in the shop, I showed Carrie the Mosaic box, which is the retail version, which is, it's a square, medium size, kind of like a Agricola kind of box. And then you have the Colossus, which is one of the biggest. It's bigger than Wingspan.
Yeah.
The big box there. And the player boards are 4 times the size, and all the cardboards are plastic. But God, it does look good. But it is the same game. It is the same game.
It is the same game.
Different. And that's a bit I always have to remind myself now. Are they really going to make the difference? And is it really worth another £200 nearly?
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Am I going to play it more than 5 times?
No.
That's one of the things I do also now measure is in the board game stats, I put the price of what I paid for it. So when I do play and I go, I've played it once and I paid £100, that's good value for money, isn't it?
Yeah. So also Joe plays games. One of his reasons, and remember his questions are why you don't back a game.
Yeah.
Add-ons, choices, and decision fatigue.
Yeah.
The abundance of add-ons, choices, and different versions of the game can lead to decision fatigue, making the backing process emotionally overwhelming and off-putting.
Nemesis. I had that. There's so many add-ons, so many Nemesis 1, Nemesis 2, Nemesis 3. All of that complexity on Game Found, where you scroll through, first you've got to choose. Then you have to go along the add-ons and go, well, is that add-on in that? No, that's in there. So I ended up taking screenshots of it all to try and work out. I couldn't agree more. Great example.
Yeah. So Nemesis, we did not back Nemesis. I was not even familiar with Nemesis. When I came on my radar, I was like,
the same. Yeah.
I told my wife, I was like, we really need to buy a copy of the game. So we bought the core game through Titan Games, our local game store. And then my sister-in-law bought me the Space Cats for my birthday because we're a cat family. That's going to be really cool. Having no idea that those Space Cats are just miniatures of a first player marker.
That's it, isn't it? You learned your lesson.
That's rough. That's the decision fatigue that Joe's listeners are talking about, right? It's emotionally overwhelming because I'm giving up my money, right, for your product. I need a value added to that. How do we measure that? Everyone does it differently, right? But that's a rough one. Whew, man. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a game designer. Like, because you got to factor all this in, right?
And if you don't do the bling, then it's like, it's boring. I want the deluxe version. So you get grief.
Right.
And now we're giving people the grief, because they put all the bling in. I mean,
yeah. So it's like, ultimately there has to be a line drawn somewheres at some point.
But the other challenge is it's also the volume. So you might have 2 or 3, 4 big Kickstarter campaigns a year. And now he's one every month or one every few weeks. And then it spikes because everyone tries to get him in a few months ago, ready for like Essen coverage or Essen the year after.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just drained. You say that emotional of where do I spend my money? Obviously it's limited cash that I'm going to spend. Mm-hmm. And is this going to be the right one? Is this going to be a successful game, or is it going to be a dog?
Yeah, that's really tough. So the last one from Joe's survey is a lack of unique value or mechanics. Backers are less inclined to back games that do not offer unique mechanics or themes that are different from games that are already in their collection. I mean, as a designer, how do you decide? Like, how do you make that decision? You know, I mean,
it goes through phases. Suddenly, there's tons of zombie games, and then suddenly there's loads of nature games, and then suddenly there's a load of I don't know how it is. I don't know how it goes. Something in the wind.
Yep.
Well, I think for all those factors is why I'm more picky.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
I think the last game I backed was Rebirth. Ooh. Which was the I've forgotten the designer, which is terrible.
That is terrible.
Anyway,
they're not going
very famous designer.
Yeah,
and my phone's dead. Anyway, someone can remind us.
Yeah.
That's the last game I backed. Only because I actually physically saw it at the UK Games Expo. So I got to watch it being played and said, yeah, okay, it can have some of my cash.
So this is another thing that I would say to you about why playtesting is so much fun. I think I've sold you on playtesting. I think you've...
Oh, yeah. We had that, yeah.
But I would add to it, being able to playtest the game, it answers all those questions for you. Yeah. Because you get to play it, you get to touch it, you get to everything, and it's just so good. And you know that whatever you're playing is not the final version. So we finally playtested Estate, like we mentioned last week. It is good. It is really good. We're playing the prototype, and I can only imagine how much better it's going to get, right? Like I can already... Here's the thing. So I'm playing a prototype, and Katie and I are thinking about, well, they could make this an add-on, and they could make this a stretch goal. Oh, my God. So it's like, do we give them grief, or do we say yes for doing the right thing? Yeah.
It's put it into one box, make it deluxe and core, but the mechanics are the same.
Yeah. I think it has to be one box. I think that's the important thing, right? This ties into a previous episode where you and I talked about expansions, right?
Yes. Yeah.
If you're going to make an expansion, why not just include it in your Kickstarter and just boom? I mean, I get pursuit of money, I understand, but because sometimes you have add-ons or stretch goals of like mini expansions that you could only get in the Kickstarter, which is connected to something that you alluded to, is that FOMO.
Yeah. So often, if it's a promo, I think I said this last time, and it's in the Kickstarter, I don't even add it because I know that it's just either a bolt-on, or what makes me even more frustrated is the Kickstarter when it clearly is part of the game,
right?
And they made it a stretch goal.
Right.
To make you feel you're getting something, but it was always part of the plan anyway.
Right.
But because people want to see more stuff and getting more value, it's a beautiful bit of advertising.
Yeah.
And psychology.
Yes, it is. Emotional manipulation. And I don't want to be a game designer.
Or a publisher. Depends which way around. I'll give you my game and then you take it away. I mean, look at Castle Burgundy. I mean, the game didn't change, but man, Waken Realms, they did a big old campaign to deluxify, and it's the same game, but it does look beautiful. And I did go down the rabbit hole on that one, and I did back it all.
You backed all of it.
But that one is being tracked in the how much was a play, and it's starting to drop now. It's got into the, not the £30 a play region.
Yeah.
When there's four of us playing, but. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, there's just there's so much to talk about, and each individual has to weigh their own decisions on why you back. So if you feel like there's some reason, you have a special reason why you chose to back one game over another that we didn't cover, send us a DM and Instagram. Let us know. We want to hear your opinions.
Definitely.
If we can cover it. I'm sure there's a lot of other reasons why you should back one game and not another. And we'd love to hear all about it because it's interesting. So my question to you is, what does AI say about whether or not...
I'm not even ready. But
AI...
You're
not ready?
No, but I'll be ready because the internet's pretty quick. Top 3 crowdfunding backer tips. That sounds like a good query, doesn't it?
Ooh, I like that. I like it.
I've said tops, but let's see how it gets on. Here we go. I mean, just literally, we managed to start the show, get the AI to talk, and we haven't got to say anything. We could be an AI-led. Yep. Number 1, research the project and the creator. So that's a great bit of video. Look back and see what else they've made. Before committing any funds, thoroughly investigate the project and its creators. Look for the creator's track record, previous projects, their ability to deliver on their promises.
Yep.
Check for updates, comments, any community feedback about the project. This helps gauge the legitimacy and feasibility of the campaign. Bosh, beautiful. Number 2, understand the risks. Crowdfunding is not a guaranteed pre-order system. It has delays, changes to projects not even being completed. Read the project's risk and challenges. Make sure you're comfortable giving away your money. You may never see it back. Number 3 is monitor updates and stay engaged. So after backing a project, keep track of its updates. This helps you stay informed. Weirdly, I would always read updates. And I would say over the last few months, I've stopped reading updates until it arrives. Maybe I'm just relaxed. I kind of read the headline in the email and go, oh, it sounds okay. Yeah, that's okay. It hasn't got here yet, but it'll be here.
So Katie manages our account, so she gets all the updates. So she reads them, and then if they say something important, she'll tell me. Otherwise, I don't know what's out there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a lull currently. I guess we're in that summer shipping. Everything's on its water, probably ready for Essen Q3 release. Mm-hmm. There's quite a bit arriving September, October, in time for Essen. So. Good. Well, I'm glad AI was consistent in its updates as we are.
Yep. AI seems to be on. I think AI listens to us and just kind of.
Well, why wouldn't you?
We're the
top tips of crowdfunding techniques.
Yep.
So, what have you got there?
So, do we want to do this?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, don't say the game.
I won't. How do you want to do this? This is a new feature that Gareth and I came up with last week.
If you hold up the thing so I can see the game you're about to read out. Okay, I need to find what the board game geek description of that is.
Okay.
I've never even heard of it, so this is going to be interesting. So PJ is going to read out like the intro of a rule book.
Yep.
And then I will read out the headline of a board game geek.
Okay.
And then anyone who can message in will get a name shout next week when we reveal what game this is.
We will reveal the title of the game. And I mean, it's going to be easy. But I grabbed it because it was closest on the shelf, but I think we're going to do this more often. Okay. Are you ready, Gareth?
I am.
All right. Here we go. Every year, a famous boat race takes place along the winding course of the mighty Mississippi River. To earn the prize, a captain must ably maneuver through the curvy river to pick up passengers gussied up in crinoline, but also be the fastest to steer between the other boats, the numerous islets, and various other hazards of navigation. Are you up to the challenge? If so, and you manage to win this prestigious race, you will be honored for an entire year by being named commander of the most celebrated of those famous paddle wheelers.
Still not heard of it.
We love this game. So good.
So good that it hasn't actually got a brief description written on Board Game Geek. Which must be pretty rare. PJ, your job is to go and submit that to Board Game Geek.
I need to.
So I can't do any better than PJ's description. So if you can name that game. Oh, look at that. Name that game. Gosh, I better write that down before I forget.
Yep.
Name that game. We'll see who gets the magic prize. Yeah. Good feature.
We'll be more organized in the future. But yeah, we'll come up with something.
I'm going to go and browse Kickstarter.
There you go. Well, good, I'm going to check out GameFound. So
you go check GameFound. I'll check Kickstarter. Next week we could do our top 3. Maybe that. Yeah. Oh no, the week after next. So we've got. It's because this is episode 89. 90 you've got lined up.
Yeah, next week.
It'll be 91.
Next week I'm going solo again to talk to the designers of Botany and their recently fulfilled Kickstarter, LaFleur. That's Dux Somnium is the company. I reached out, everyone I reached out to be co-host with me. I was like, have you played Botany? No.
No, seriously. Like,
come on, guys. All right. That's fine.
How many backers?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because that would tell you what's your odds of finding a gamer.
Botany's their game that's already out. LaFleur is the game they just finished.
Was Botany on Kickstarter, wasn't it?
I think
it wasn't. It?
I don't know. I bought it on retail. So
I thought it was. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was on. Maybe I've got that completely wrong. In that case, I can't help you. Now I've got hiccups. I found it.
Did you?
15,000 backers. That one, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 15,000 backers.
Wow. That's incredible. That is incredible.
And you still not found somebody.
Yeah. Yep. I'm sure they're out there. It's just, But anyway, I'm going to interview them, and they're going to be episode 90. And then the week after that, I will be back from Gen Con, where I will report in.
Ooh.
We'll do a Gen Con.
A Gen Con recap.
Mm-hmm. There will not be a preview. I'm sorry, guys. So here's the deal. Look for me. It is only going to be Sunday, August 4th at Gen Con. I will be there. I'm hoping to construct a flag that I can suspend over my head, attached to my backpack, so that when you're in the vendor hall, you will see the M2M logo, and you'll know it's me.
I thought you were going to say like it was going to be like a piece of food,
No.
Piece of chicken or something hang over your head.
I've been chatting with John from Try-Win Games because
he had a plunger.
He had a plunger, but his is like it was crocheted and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I'm like, no, I told him what I wanted. It's like a little flag, like a little golf flag.
Oh yeah.
And so
I know what you mean.
We're going to try and put something together. We may have some special treats, but be on the lookout. I'll be there on Sunday only.
Right. Thanks. I enjoyed that. I'm seriously going to Kickstarter now. I'm going to come back and tell you what I find.
How many games you back?
None. None. We've got a holiday to go to. There's no time for Kickstarters.
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure. PJ as ever. And I will speak to you after Gen Con.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Boom. Thanks everyone for listening. And we will see you. We'll speak to you soon. See you later.
Thanks everyone for listening. Please subscribe. And as always, we love to hear your thoughts and ideas. So make sure to leave those in the comments. And don't forget, you can also chat with us both on Instagram @Meeple to Meeple.